Welcome to Event Experience by Bizzabo, the podcast where we bring the best and brightest event experience leaders together to share stories, tips, and lessons learned from creating some of the world's biggest events. I'm Rachel Moore, your podcast host. In this episode, friend of the pod and pillar of the events industry, Adam Parry, joins me to discuss the significance of event tech live, its evolution over the years, and the challenges faced by event planners in a technology-driven landscape. Adam shares his perspectives about the integration of AI in the events industry, the challenges of event planning and registration, and the importance of sustainability in event management. This year, as with every year, Adam and I are right here with you in our collective event experience. Today, we are welcoming back a friend of the podcast, someone we welcome back on a regular basis because, quite simply, he has his finger on the pulse of event technology, event sustainability, and just generally the industry at large at all times. He is in his 12th year as the co-founder of Event Tech Live. And so I am delighted to welcome back Adam Parry to Event Experience. Adam, thank you for joining me yet again here on the podcast.
Absolutely, Rachel. Thank you very much for inviting me back. It's always a pleasure speaking to you about these things. I thoroughly look forward and enjoy these recordings. So yeah, highlight of my day for sure.
Well, thank you. It's always, I whenever it's like, ooh, it's that time of year again, let's have you back on. I know we have a couple regulars too. I mean, there's just some of these, particularly some of these events that are pretty crucial, kind of almost the backbone, you might say, of the events industry. And so they're very vital to keep the pulse on. But of course, then you go to the person who's behind it. And, you know, it's just always so insightful to have you on the podcast. And for those of our listeners and viewers who are like, yes, I'm familiar with Adam, you know, they're like, yay, I'm glad you're back on. But I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit for those who may be new to you. Maybe they're like, I'm sorry, who's Adam Parry and why do I need to know him? So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with Event Tech Live?
Yeah, absolutely. So Event Tech Live is part and parcel as an event of a publication called Event Industry News. Very briefly, we cover the whole entire spectrum of the events industry. We really publish news, information, reports, statistics, insight around what's happening in the global events market, hoping that everybody can learn from each other. Technology and sustainability are two of those passions that we take a big look at because in our minds, they're kind of the things that are moving the events industry forward and changing the way that we design and deliver events. And Event Tech Live started out very much as a passion project and has grown into this beast, now being the place where people really come to upgrade. In all honesty, they're taking their journey on event tech to the next level. They want to either implement other technologies to enhance their event, the attendee engagement, drive more revenue, drive more visibility, understand their audience more, or they might just be getting started and they're kind of like at the discovery stage, or they're kind of trying to at the moment figure out AI and where that sits in the business and where does it sit in the event and how do we do all of this stuff. And it's overwhelming and we try and help people kind of make sense of it all. But as you said, 12 years in the making, we now see around 3,000 attendees from around 50 plus countries. We hope to scale that up. And yeah, if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of where technology is going in the event space or as an event business, I want to be very clear. It's not just about the technology that takes place at the event for attendees and things like that. It's about technology as an event business as well, to support the business, to generate new opportunities, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll have about maybe 100 plus, 115 plus exhibitors this year at the show. Ooh. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's crucial too for you to bring that up. I mean, we all know our lives are pretty much dominated by technology, whether we're talking about events or not. I mean, right now, you and I are corresponding across many thousands of miles because of technology. You know, we have these systems and things, but so much that they all talk to each other. Let's do a couple get to know you questions. What are your go-to on the ground shoes all day at Event Tech Live? What are you wearing?
I am a Nike fanboy. I used to be Nike Air Max 90 exclusively. I'm now a Pegasus 41 Easy On guy. I don't know if you've come across Easy On. No. You just literally slip your feet into them. You don't have to like tie shoelaces and things like that. And I have just bought a pair of Lunar Rome because I kind of find that like a reboot revival. So I am I'm the just do it guy,
Nice.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Excellent. I know you're not alone, or a lot of people like Nike as well. Is there anything you're listening to, watching, or reading these days that you can't put down?
Oh, that's a really good
It
question.
doesn't have to be events related.
No, that's a really good question. Not specifically at the moment, to be honest with you. I think the most amount of reading and things that I'm doing, or the most knowledge absorption, is around really two topics. One is technology and AI and stuff. I'm just fascinated by how things are moving. So I'm doing a lot of online reading and documentation and reports and all that kind of stuff on that. And then I hit 40 this year. So a big change for me has been kind of like my own health and wellness and fitness and things like that. So I've always been generally into that, but I'm taking a real hard look at that now. Like, I really want to have my DNA done. I have had my DNA done before, but then I want the DNA code and I want to put that into ChatGPT.
Right. Ooh.
See what it can assess about me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the future of medicine will be, kind of things. You have like, I can see this, you do a finger prick in the morning, you put it into a computer, and your AI assistant will say, hey, this is what you should think about over the next kind of week,
Wow.
or, kind of those health assistants and stuff like that. So I'm fascinated
Yeah.
by that kind of stuff as well at the moment.
That's cool.
Oh, but I'm also a big sci-fi guy. So anything sci-fi. I'm really looking forward to taking my son to watch the Roblox movie.
Oh, that'll be so cool. Yeah, my kids have been talking about that too. So it's definitely around. And having had the privilege of being able to go to Event Tech Live a few times, there is a lot there. I'm talking about it from personal perspective, but I want to hear from you as well, particularly about what the plans are for this year, because I believe you're on, is this year 12 of the conference? Of the trade show?
It is, yeah. It's gone in a flash. I don't look old enough to Rachel.
No, you look lovely. Yes, I would not be able to tell.
It's more gray hairs here now than I did before. It's 12th year of the show, and we did launch a US event a couple of years ago. We delivered that for 2 years. We're taking a break this year because we're actually relocating that event to the East Coast for 2026. But we're only a small team. We're not a big mammoth trade show organizer. We like to take our time and do things properly. So we're taking the Glastonbury Fellow year this year to do that. And touch wood, everybody that we spoke to about relocating to the East Coast has been super excited, super positive. So for anybody listening in that region, either head over to London in November, or we'll see you maybe in 2026 in an East Coast environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's touch on one thing. You brought up, you have a small team. I think pretty much everyone who is an event planner can relate. They're either a party of one, a team of one, or they do have a very lean team. Or even if they're working with an agency, it's always a small group that does mighty things. And so I love that it kind of is reflected, like you're almost reflecting the audience, right? Saying, look, we get you're working with small teams too. Let's bring all these things together that are meant to help us accomplish the impossible, which we do every single time we put on these big events. So I think that's so great that you provide that.
Very much so. Yeah, I think we have a great team. They're mighty and they're powerful. But I think sometimes we can get caught up in just, we had that internal conversation. Here's a bit of behind the scenes of like, oh, we need to do something. We need to do it quickly. We need to do this. And, organizing events is already stressful.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to add to that stress. And we also didn't want to add to our stress of our exhibitors, our participants, in terms of planning and moving things and all that kind of stuff. So it just made a lot of sense from a longevity perspective of that brand and that event and our own Sanitech to take that year out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong, from a business perspective, that's a huge hole in revenue,
right,
but more sustainable.
Yeah.
That's what we believe in the future, at least, anyway.
Well, thank you for bringing that up too, because I'm sure, something that we've been talking here at Bizzabo about, we have webinars every month. We have panelists on those webinars. We have topics that we're trying to really make sure we're keeping things at the forefront for what is top of mind for an event planner out there, an event team. And with this new year, it's been really interesting because there seems to be a lot, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this too, what you're seeing. We did an event industry report where we're seeing, okay, events are important to business. They're important to strategy. So let's do more of those. So event teams are being tasked, okay, well, can you do more of what you were doing? And hopefully we are seeing in some areas where they're having an increased budget as well. But I think it's so key, you bring up too, that sometimes you've got to say yes, but longevity wise, I think any event planner might say, oh, well, goodness, we're gonna skip, we're gonna pause, we're gonna pause the momentum and not do something. But you always have to have that long-term goal, that strategy in mind to say, yes, but this is for the benefit in the long term. It's gonna be okay. And I would love to hear what your perspective is too. Are you seeing that people are like feeling the pressure more, saying, oh, events are important to our business, and now they're, oh God, I gotta perform more, I gotta do more?
Absolutely. Let's look at it from a business use case. It's great to hear and see, and the reports reflecting that companies want to invest more in person as well as digital as well. They go hand in hand. I'm still a big believer in that. That's only good for the events industry as a collective. I think I was reading another report this morning myself, which was indicating that in the Asia Pacific region, they reckon they're going to have to see a 54% increase over the next couple of years in person events, which is huge,
Yeah.
even considering how big the events industry over there is at the moment. Now, what does that mean? Well, it could mean one of two things. On a negative, we do things less well because we're stretched.
Right.
We do things for the sake of it, not thinking about the objective of it, or we just want to bring people in a room because our sales team love that and our marketing teams love that, and we feel great about it. And it's woo, it's amazing, and wouldn't we like to go to this great destination, all that kind of stuff. But what is the underlying objective? And I think actually sometimes the negatives within events come from people who do them so regularly, they become very lackadaisical in their approach to them, almost like, oh, we know how to do this, we know how to do this, we don't really have to think about extracting every dollar from it. Yep. It'll kind of just happen and roll. But the biggest challenge there I see is, while there's a keen interest in people doing more, are those teams getting the support that they need from a hiring perspective? Like, you start out with your first marketing person, don't you? And they're the jack of all trades. They do everything: social, email, web. And as you grow those marketing efforts, you end up bolting in other disciplines around that person, so that there's somebody dedicated on social, there's somebody dedicated on email, there's somebody dedicated on web. Because you do more, you need more eyeballs and a machine to make all that moving. I don't see that happening all the time in the events industry.
Yeah.
And I think while there's more budgets to do events, I think part of that budget needs to be allocated to recruiting to support those existing teams. Because if your event person's burnt out and then leaves, where does that leave your event program?
Right.
He's decimated, right? So you start on all that knowledge, that key person knowledge, that experience, the vendor relationships, the venue relationships, the speaker relationships, the health and safety guy relationships. Like, that one person leaves, or those few key people leave, your business has no event program anymore.
Everyone listening to this is like, yes, please take care of us. You're right, because it's actually such a human thing to talk about, because it's like, what is that adage? Like, you can only pour out so much as long as you're getting filled. Like, you are a cup of resources. And if you're running on empty, how are you pouring anything out? You can't. And there might be increased budget. There might be a push to say, let's do more events. But then you need to look at your team and be like, okay, well, we're adding on to what we're expecting you to do. Do you have what you need? And, taking a look, that's super important.
Yeah, I think it's something we forget in the events industry. Unfortunately, and this is something we still have to do in the industry as a whole, is advocate for the value of these positions within these organizations, right? Yes, the SVP of sales always gets patted on the back for bringing those big checks in. And woo, they're the key people. They're the key people. But they forget that events and marketing, they're all touch points. They all help the sales along. They all have value and things like that. And actually, in my opinion, the most highly valued people within the business, because they're really hard to replace. Really hard to replace. It's not like there are tens of thousands of new event planners coming through the doors every single month.
Yeah, that's right. That's so interesting. So now I want to pivot over here, because you're bringing up, we brought up a couple of things just now. So burnout, event planners are feeling burnt out. You're also talking about the need to, okay, how do I maybe learn who are event planners out there? Not only who is an event planner, but who's hiring event planners. So there's that aspect of it, of possibly connecting people, connecting the dots so they have those resources. So now I want to ask you, so let's swing back to Event Tech Live, because your team creates a central event again. And I love that you are really, thinking through saying, well, let's make it as accessible as possible. We've got London, which is obviously, a major international thoroughfare, and you do it at Excel London, which is like Disney World for any kind of event anyone's putting on. And so great. But now you're looking at East Coast. So you really, you're trying to bring the event to where it's like it's accessible to people. Let's talk about what kind of attendees, like if someone is saying, okay, I have not been to Event Tech Live, why would I go?
Yeah, and it's a really hard picture to paint for us, Rachel, because we're talking about a topic rather than an event type, right? Like if you are a professional conference organizer, maybe you just go to the PCMA events or the MPI events or something like that. If you're into room blocking and DMCs and things like that, you go to the IMEXs of the world things. You have CISOs on at the moment. I don't know when this is going out, but that's the Society of Independent Show Organizers. They've got their CEO summit. So if you're in trade show world, you go to that event. They talk about things very broadly and holistically within that sector. Whereas we don't talk about events, we talk about technology in and as part of events. So actually our audience is very broad, although we do tend to eke out strongly more on the brand, corporate, agency and trade show world, generally because they're larger, they tend to have deeper pockets, so they're more invested in technology already at this stage. But actually, what I would encourage anybody to do is really look at Event Tech Live as an opportunity to learn and upskill yourself, right? If you are an event planner and you better understand how interpretation technology integrates into the event experience and how that technology is deployed and how to budget for that technology, or what does a budget for that technology even look like? You know, it could be you want a better understanding of the revenue opportunities that technology brings you, and you can look at that from the education that we put on. And at the moment, let's be honest about it, AI is the big topic. So, you know, there has been and already is going to be so much of that content weaved into the show that I really look at it is like being prepared for every eventuality, right? If you have a better understanding of technology, the innovation that's happening, what's coming, then you won't feel, I think, what a lot of event planners had felt at COVID and since, which is overwhelmed, right? I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth to learn all of this stuff. I've got my day job to do. I'm going to stick with my Excel spreadsheet. Cool. Yeah. In that situation, you're fighting fires. But if you take the approach of, right, if I kind of just gradually learn about this stuff and educate myself and get better at it, it will become a skill that's then transferable into the existing business that I work for. Or maybe that opens up the doors because now I have that knowledge and that's super valuable to the next company I want to work with.
Oh, gosh, absolutely. Any room you're talking about technology, AI is going to come up. And I mean, gosh, even the time we're recording this last week, ChatGPT just rolled out their image generator, which everyone's doing, you know, Hayao Miyazaki artwork. And they're just like, whoa, look what we can do. Which naturally you're going to be like, great, how can I incorporate that into my approach? But you may not know what you don't know. And being able to be in an environment where you literally are walking across the floor saying, oh, there's a technology for tying my event, you know, it's my event platform or event measurement to a CRM that my brand uses. I didn't know I needed that. And that's okay to not know that. But now you are seeing it in your face. It's so accessible right there. Just walk up and learn about it. And I think that's so important. Like you said, too, we were just talking about the need for there to be a wider pool of event planners, really good ones, you know, experienced ones who are out there. Well, guess what? The way they get experience is by getting exposed to more of what's accessible that are available so they can be those subject matter experts for the teams they're working for. And that adds value to them. So it's a valuable thing to be able to go and say, hey, I know more coming out of Event Tech Live than I did going in.
I genuinely think, I mean, we're already seeing titles such as event technologist, and I think they'll expand, right? I think it won't be long before we do see an SVP of event technology at a large corporate or something like that. Bloomberg, for example, Financial Times, they both have extensive teams just dedicated to helping their other event teams deliver on that technology piece effectively. And I think we'll see that roll out even further. And people start to look for like, okay, now we have this tech stack or this tech vision. Is just being a great event planner enough anymore? Is it going to get you the big bucks? I don't know. Like, it really is. And when it comes to AI, my approach to it has been just try and break stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Just like play with it, try and break it, figure it out. If it doesn't work, I've actually been working with the image generator that you mentioned this morning, Rachel, and another tool we're using to literally create bespoke HTML emails to our database, which took me I produced one this morning from copy to completion in probably less than 30 minutes.
Wow.
Which is probably less time than I would have spoken to a designer about it. So a really interesting quote that the model's changing, right? The reason that organizations like Facebook and others were really successful at the time is because the people that launched them knew and understood how to code.
Mm-hmm.
That was the skill set that gave them the edge to create those things. AI has changed that fundamentally forever.
Yep.
Now it's going to be won by the people that are the most creative and the most eloquent when it comes to telling these models what they want and how they want it. You don't need to learn how to code anymore. In fact, in my opinion, it's going to be a dying skill.
Right.
But that's what the events industry is all about, right? Isn't it? Creativity and ideas and how to bring people together and how to create these amazing experiences. So anybody that's in the field of like, well, it's not my field, I'm in it to create experiences. Well, if you can get all of the stuff working in the background, like getting data to certain places, getting registration information, getting reports, getting data, updating contracts and all this kind of stuff. If you can use the tools and technology to automate all of that in the background and do it well, you've got all the time to focus on the creative stuff.
Yeah, there's all the reasons to tap into that because, as we all said, I mean, the pressure's going to continue. The push to make more events and make them more evocative, make them more creative, and keep leveling them up is going to continue. But you providing Event Tech Live, having exhibitors there, having vendors there, having those options there. And I think there's an aspect as well. You're not just going to a trade show. You also have experts there who are giving talks, demos, thought leadership, saying, hey, by the way, did you know that this is where this is going? Whether it's about AI or experiential or how are you gauging attendee sentiment and things like that. There's all these kind of aspects that, as you said, it's not just about tech. It's about really upskilling any of those areas where you're like, I need to know more, need to be better at this.
The technology really fundamentally comes down to either providing a process, which is an attendee needs a badge to get into an event, right?
Yeah.
Or really supporting an objective for the event, which is we want to understand or do or know X, and we need this thing in order to achieve that. And I think actually we've forgotten that some of these companies, not some of them, most of them, are continually innovating with their platforms and technologies and stuff like that. So even if you've seen the brand before, if you've looked at it before, you kind of thought about it before and you've kind of dismissed it, it's not right for you at that right time, they've all changed in 12 months.
Yeah.
They're all doing new things. They're all doing things in different ways. They are themselves leading when it comes to the integration of AI. Because somebody asked me the other day, was like, are you going to have an AI section at Event Tech Live? And I was like, absolutely not. No, we're not going to have an AI section because it's fundamentally getting woven into every business. As we see it. We all have lots of content about it, but it would be kind of unfair to have this little pot of like, oh, well, that's all of the fun AI stuff. And there's all these great companies doing all this great AI stuff and they don't get the spotlight. Sounds like the event in itself is a spotlight on what's happening when it comes to AI in events.
We'll be right back with more event experience after the break. Hey, event professionals, do you want to hear more from the industry's top event experience leaders? Don't miss out on future episodes of the Event Experience podcast by Bizzabo. Hit subscribe, drop us a review, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues. The Event Experience podcast by Bizzabo, where events come to life. We're back with Adam Parry to prepare any new attendees for their Event Tech Live experience. We're recording this at the very end of March, so this episode's probably going to go live in April or May. Yes, folks, people are still registering for conferences more than a week before it happens, which, oh my gosh, I'm sure that is the talk of the town too, is just like, oh my gosh, people are making these decisions and I'm not getting my attendee list until like literally 3 days before the event. That's been a struggle. But again, tech can help with that stuff, but there's always that human factor, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, as somebody that would be self-proclaimed on the spectrum, there are some things I know I am absolutely going to do, but I'm only going to do them at the end when the time on the bomb is ticking down. I had to apologize to somebody else the other day because we booked a trade show booth with them. And I was like, I could have done this 3 weeks ago, Johnny, and I'm really sorry, but I've just let it slip. And it's like, I have even been that person that's literally registering for an industry trade show on the way into the venue, because I've just left it that late. But that's, where we all do it. Let's be honest about it. There's nobody in this events industry that can say, oh yeah, I register like 6 months in advance and I always do. That's a lie.
Nope. Step into the confessional. We can all admit what we've done. This actually segues nicely because we know there's some things that are tried and true. Technology is always going to advance. It's always going to evolve. Some of the things that are not tried and true are just the world around us, right? We all know that there are different trends, different, geopolitical things happening, costs, prices, economies, things like that. All of this has impact on events, whether or not people either can go to events or plan events or attend events or what have you. I want to ask you a bit more too, because you do Event Tech Live, but you also do event sustainability. And I would love to hear more about that too, because I feel, is that a bit of a newer endeavor? And tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sustainability has always been at the heart of how we've produced Event Tech Live. We were, I wouldn't say pioneering because it's not rare, but me and my business partner actually went out to a trade show before we launched Event Tech Live in Taiwan. And the first thing that we noticed was there was no carpet. It was a sustainability initiative. Mm-hmm. They were like, we don't need carpet in these halls. They're very nice. They're cool. They're awesome. Exhibitors can have carpet if they want. That's absolutely fine. But that's stuck in our brains. And actually, we didn't go for a traditional trade show venue the first time we went out. So that's something. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people were like, I am never coming back to your exhibition ever again because you've not got carpet. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And we've continued to go through that. Don't get me wrong. There are fantastic, recyclable, reusable products on the market. There are sustainable carpet options.
Right.
But it's always been a part of what we've done at Event Tech Live. And that's even gone into the technology side where we use it. We were an early adopter of translation technologies, closed captioning technologies, other accessibility, supportive solutions for events and things like that. So it was actually a really nice natural segue into the sustainability side of things. And we were writing lots of things about it. And actually, that event, we're going through a process at the moment of reimagining it as well. Does it necessarily need to be a trade show? Could it be another event design or something like that? That's something we're talking about internally. But the one thing that we know is it's a very interesting topic to the events industry at the moment. The challenges are and continue to be budgetary investment, similar to event technology. Are people paying piecemeal to it a little bit? Is the budget being invested in sustainable options if a non-sustainable option is cheaper? Because budgets are under scrutiny, budgets are tight and things like that. And we're not legislated like other sectors.
Right.
So there's no government, and that might change, right? That could absolutely change at a heartbeat. But I know I won't name them, but I know very big companies that have carbon credits and the events sit outside of that.
Yeah. Are you still finding that attendees, we just talked about choosing maybe late in the game, am I going to go to this event or not? Is that part of their selection to say, is it evident that you're putting on a sustainable event and that's important to me as an attendee? How heavy do you think that's impacting people's decisions?
Do you know what? I think you have to look at it from a generational perspective. The same way the trend is going that younger generations don't drink alcohol. By margins that my generation does, I won't mention anybody else if that's not fair. It's behavioral change. And I think, I'm in my 40s now. It's not my generation. There is consciousness on sustainability when it comes to attendance, but it's not necessarily a driving factor on whether I will or won't attend an event. But I could see my son, as he gets to that point, absolutely being a decision-making, just the same as people make decisions on whether they go Pepsi or Coke or Nike or Adidas or, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like those well, I believe in that brand and that brand's mission and that thing more.
Yeah.
You're going to see more events. There are always going to be competing events. So if one's offering a more sustainable approach to their events, then yes, I think that could absolutely play into somebody's decision-making process about which one they invest in and which one they go to. Because they themselves don't want to make an impact. And we're being inundated with this information now, aren't we? Like, if you book a train, you're often given, well, you save this amount of CO2. Or if you go to a specific hotel, you might be like, well, if you stop in this room, you've made less impact. If you don't ask for your room cleaned every single day, you've made less impact. If you choose this off the menu, you've made less impact. So, yeah, I think naturally we're coming to a point where the impact element is becoming much more transparent to us as consumers and attendees and things like that. So yeah, I can absolutely see it making an impact in the future on where people go and who they do.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is at the moment, on the whole, events still aren't doing a big enough job of recording and calculating their impact. Kind of like a fear thing.
Oh,
it's like,
sure.
Don't want to know how bad it is. Better to be ignorant to it than know and have to do something about it being terrible.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I do. Kind of keep it nebulous where it's like, we're thinking about it. Haven't really taken the step to measure it yet because maybe we're not thinking about it, but I totally get it. I mean, it's kind of like when you...
It's like the junk drawer.
Yeah.
It's like the junk. Do you know what a junk drawer
Yes,
is? It's like the junk drawer.
Yes. Oh, we have more than one in this house. Or like you see something kind of decadent, and you're like, I'm going to order that, and I'm not going to ask how many calories the nutritional value is because I just want it. And later you're like, oh no, I regret that choice.
What we have to remember to do as well, though, is also change people's perceptions of things, because what could be seen to be a very lavish event, a very flamboyant event, certain structures, certain builds, certain stands, certain activations, those kinds of things. Well, how can that possibly be sustainable? That's a huge waste of money. I actually took the mickey out of a friend on Instagram yesterday because she was at a Greek event and they were smashing plates. And I went, oh, that's not very sustainable, is it? And she was like, actually, they recycled and made from paper. So there you go. And I was like, we have that relationship where we can have that bit of banter, but I could have also just been of that perception that's just a huge amount of waste. And actually there's a story behind that.
Where can our listeners find and follow you and Event Tech Live online?
Yeah, so Event Tech Live is at Event Tech Live on Instagram, on LinkedIn, all the good places. Me, if you want professional, it's LinkedIn, Adam.Parry. If it's general life, it's Instagram, Punchtown Parry. And if you want to see silly videos of me in the gym working out, I'm on TikTok. So
that's awesome.
whichever floats your boat.
Skill Up for this episode is a can't miss tech recommendation from Adam that has changed his daily life.
There is a little piece of technology that I've come across recently that has made a huge change to my productivity. And it's a platform called Wispr Flow. So Wispr Flow is essentially a tool, and there's a free option, so no reason to not try it. What Wispr Flow does is it sits on your Mac, and I do believe they're releasing Microsoft very soon, and it turns your functioning key into a listening microphone with a microphone attached to your computer. And anything that you have which has a text input into it, so it could be Slack, it could be Word, it could be Docs, it could be LinkedIn, anything like that, you just hit it, you talk, and it dictates perfectly. I'm not exaggerating where I think it's allowing me to respond and reply and write things about 5 times faster. I recommended it to a friend the other day at the Financial Times, and she was like, this is the best tech recommendation I've ever had in my entire life.
Thanks again to Adam Parry for joining us on Event Experience, and thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear it. Connect with us on social and subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Also, don't forget to share the show with your colleagues and friends. You can find transcripts of each episode and key takeaways on bizzabo.com/podcast. On behalf of the team, thank you. We'll gather again soon for a new episode of Event Experience.